So in today's video, I'm going to talk all about pre-race nutrition. I'm going to tell you the strategies that I use with myself and with the athletes I work with so that you can avoid the digestive upset, you can reach the start line with the maximum amount of fuel available, and you can be confident that you're going to smash your race goals, whatever they may be. My name is MJ. This is Triathlon Nutrition. We're an endurance nutrition specialist, and we help people just like you conquer the complex world of nutrition in endurance and triathlon so that you can train well, you can race even better, you can recover, and you can reach your true potential when it comes to your endurance journey, whatever that means for you. So firstly, why is your pre-race meal important? Well, let's just break down a tiny bit of the science for a minute. You have two main sources of energy, fat and carbohydrates. And yeah, you can use protein if you really get desperate, but essentially you have fat and you have carbohydrates. And whilst your body can and does break down fat and use it for fuel, carbohydrates are the body's preferred energy source. It's been studied for decades, and it is the way that the body prefers to fuel itself when it comes to that consistent, steady endurance exercise that you're going to be doing for several hours. And pre-race meals are designed to make sure that when you get to the start line, you have the optimum amount of carbohydrate stores in your muscles and in your liver, so that when you start, you've got a certain amount of fuel to get you going and well into the race. And actually, your pre-race meal can make or break your day, because if you do it right, it sets you off in the right way, but if you do it wrong, it can lead to all sorts of problems. So the name of the game is to try and get to the start line with an appropriate amount of carbohydrates in your body so that you can smash your race from there. And when you think about it, for most races, you're going to be starting the race relatively early, especially if you're doing a full distance triathlon, for example, or marathon, you're going to be starting that race early. So you're going to be waking up after a night's rest. And at that point, you're going to be semi-fasted because you'd have been sleeping for a period of time. And therefore, some of your carbohydrates would have been used during the night to fuel your body through sleep, because your body continues to work even when you're asleep. The name of the game of a pre-race meal is to top up those carbohydrate stores from what you've lost since you last ate, so that when you get to the start line, you've got the optimum amount of carbs available to you. The first thing to think about with your pre-race meal is make it focused on carbohydrates, because that's the fuel that you want. And when I say carbohydrates, I do mean relatively fast digesting and fast absorbing carbohydrates. So you've probably heard of the phrase simple and complex carbs. Simple carbs are carbs that are going to break down, digest, and absorb into the bloodstream relatively quickly. So when you have your pre-race meal, that's more towards the end that you want to work towards, because if you have complex carbs, those more whole form carbohydrates, they're going to take longer to break down, longer to digest, and therefore you increase the risk that you're not going to digest and absorb them quickly enough. So in terms of the volume, how much carbohydrate should you have? I always go for between 3 and 4 grams per kilogram of body weight. So if you weigh 70 kilograms, you're going to want to take on board around about 210 up to 280 grams of carbs. It's quite a lot, but that's going to get you to the optimum amount to make sure you're fueled ahead of the start of the race. So then the other thing that you're going to want to think about is minimizing fiber, protein, and fat. Now, there's a few reasons for this. First of all, when you're doing your pre-race meal, you want to make sure that you can digest and absorb the food quickly. You want to minimize the risk that you're going to get digestive issues. And thirdly, you want to make sure that the food that you're taking on board is going to turn into energy as quickly as possible. When you have fiber, protein, and fat, it's going to slow down digestion. It's going to potentially increase the risk of digestive discomfort, and it's not going to allow you to get energy from the foods that you're consuming, and it's going to fill you up more. Minimize your fiber, protein, and fat. Maximize your carbohydrates. And then from a timing perspective, 2 to 4 hours before the race is what you're going to want to aim for. And if you think about it, if your race starts at say 7 a.m, then you're going to want to have your meal 3:30, 4, maybe 5 if you're lucky. It really depends. You have to sort of test, and I'll come on to testing in a second, but you have to figure out what works for you. For me personally, 3 hours is the closest I can go before I start to feel it ahead of the immediate start of the race. So I would say 2 to 4 hours ahead of time, really 3 to 4 hours ahead of time, so you can make sure you digest the food properly, get all that energy absorbed and into the muscles or stored in the liver, so that you've got those resources to tap into. So that's it when it comes to pre-race nutrition, and hopefully that's been useful for you and you've picked up some basic hints and tips on what you can potentially do to improve your pre-race meal and make your race day a much more fun experience with less worrying about the nutrition side of things or the digestive issues that you have potentially had in the past. With that being said, I'd love to hear your questions or comments, so please do stick them in the comment section below. And if you're interested in learning a bit more about pre-race meals, or you've got any particular questions, feel free to get in touch. My website details are below as well, so you can check us out there. You can contact me through the website. So with that being said, thanks for watching today's video, and I'll see you at the next one.